Hi, Noe here. Welcome to this video, which is going to explain a lot of things about Rayman movements, physics, and glitches. This video might be very long, so it will be chaptered. Every time on the right, you will be able to know which part you are in, and maybe some useful information that I do not mention. I will be playing on the practice ROM hack made by the legendary Ray Carrot, so don't be disturbed by the weird menus, it's not going to matter. All you need to know is that on the left, what you see is an input display. So this is down, this is left, this is up, this is right. And for the buttons, this is jump, this is fist, this is to run, and this is triangle, which is useless. And also this is R2, L2, R1, L1 to crawl. This is all you need to know. So now, feel free to jump to the part you're interested in, and have a good video. Punching is probably the most central mechanic in Rayman 1. So it is important to understand what power-ups we can add to our fist, because these can really help to make some strats or sections easier. What you can see above me is what we call a speed fist or a speed fist power-up. You can recognize it because it has a S spinning around it. So what it does is pretty simple. Right now my fist is fully white and doesn't go very far. So now if I grab a speed fist, you can see my fist has sparkles and goes a bit further away. On total, you can improve your fist in speed 2 times. Here's another speed fist power-up. So that's 3 stages for your fist. Right now, I'm on stage 3. The bigger the stage, the further and faster your speed will reach. Your fist can also be either white, like this, or gold. When your fist is white, it might take you 2 punches to break cages or beat some enemies, but if you get a gold fist, it will only take 1 punch. As I mentioned, there are 3 different stages for your fist for the speed. So let's go through it again. Here's stage 1, here's stage 2, and here's stage 3. As you can see, the fist is progressively reaching a longer distance. Now, it is important to understand how your fist will update after you die. So right now I am on stage 1 and I'm going to enter a new screen. As you can see, I just grabbed 2 speed fists, so now I am on stage 3. However, if I die, you can now see I am back to stage 1. The reason for that is that your fist updates in a very particular way. Your current fist state is always going to be the stage you had entering a screen minus your number of deaths. So because I had stage 1 entering the screen, I am back on stage 1 after a death. As I mentioned with the gold fist, when you have a white fist, it might take 2 punches to break some objects. This problem can be solved by either charging your fist for a long time, or by punching while you are in the air. This technique is called jump punching, and is used all the way everywhere in the speedrun to kill both enemies and cages, as it's way faster to just jump punch cages rather than charging your fist. In Rayman, jump height varies depending on how long you press the jump button for. So if you press it very briefly, Rayman will do a very small jump, we call that a tap jump, but if you press it for as long as you can, you will jump higher, we call that a full jump. It's very important to keep it in mind because in various sections, depending on if you do a full jump or a tap jump or something in between, your speed through sections will vary. And we get an example right here starting in the first screen of the game. Let's now talk about jumps. I will explain what is a neutral jump and a walking or running jump. What we call neutral jump is jumping while standing still, while a walking jump is jumping while we were already walking. The importance of the difference between these two is that if you do a walking jump and try to go back in the other direction, you can see your speed when you try to go back left is very low. It is the exact same when you do a running jump. However, if you do a neutral jump, you will be able to go back to the left to the same speed. This is especially useful with slippery platforms. If you do a walking jump on slippery platforms, you can see that you will have momentum and that you won't be able to stop immediately. Whereas if you do a neutral jump and stop moving before the end of your jump, you will not move when standing on the slippery platform. This can help you maneuver through tricky slippery platform sections. Here is an example of situation in which neutral jumps are faster. In Bongo Hills 4, we need to get this cage and then go immediately back to the right. If we were to just do a jump punch and then try to go back to the right, you see that for a short moment we get very low speed to the right, whereas if we punch that cage doing a neutral jump, we can instantly get that speed to the right again. Here is the exact same thing for this cage in Mr. Stonespeed's first screen. In Rayman, you can buffer a jump. This means that if you press jump while you are in the air, you will be able to jump back on the first frame you land. This is especially useful to do what we call vine boost, which means you can jump off a vine on the first frame you land on it. The great thing about that is that when you grab a vine, you get pushed a few pixels toward the direction you're facing. So if you jump on the first frame, you actually gain a little bit of time. Note that this will only work this way if you don't have the helicopter power. If you do, you will just helicopter and grab the next vine. However, you can still buffer an input, but then you need to both activate and deactivate your helicopter before you reach the next vine, like so. When you have helicopter, it is possible to perform a span jump of a ledge grab, which simply consists in doing a full jump from the ledge you're grabbing on instantly. A few times in Rayman you will encounter bouncy clouds, and you will need to jump off of them. And the height you get can seem very random, so here's how to do it the correct way. You should always helicopter and then jump. This way you will always get the maximum height the clouds can give to you. Ring climbing is a very useful technique in Rayman speedrun. So the way it works is if you're holding jump when your fist reaches a ring, you will get a jump on the very first frame your fist hits the rings. Here's how it looks. If you keep holding punch and jump and get closer from the ring, you can actually get multiple punches and will start gliding. This can be useful in sections like this one, where you would need to swing back and forth to slowly climb the section. Or you can actually just climb it like this. Holding X physics or moon physics is an interesting property of the jump button. See, if I just walk off here, while holding right, I will land in the water. However, if I do that while holding X, I will clear the gap. The gravity is slightly changed when you hold jump. The distance or this physics can be extended even a bit more if you punch while in the air for some reason. Here are the few examples where this is used in the speedrun. Speedlocking is arguably the most important technique in the entire speedrun. Here is how it works. If you hold jump or down while having some speed, you will be able to conserve that speed while you are in the air. We will use that technique in three main situations. The first one is rings. As you can see, even though I do not have a running power up yet, I am able to get a lot of speed from that ring just by holding up and then jumping out of it. If I was only just holding right, you can see I would not get that much speed at all, and I would not be able to clear that gap. Speedlocking of rings can be especially important in the later levels, where you encounter more rings and you can clear big sections while conserving a lot of speed. But rings is not the only situation in which you're gonna want to speedlock. For example, when you have super helicopter, if you just hold right, you will go at a very low speed, which is simply just walking speed. But you can also notice that if you press X a few times faster in a row, you get a tiny boost speed. It is possible to speedlock during that boost to maintain the speed during your flying. This way you can travel at much faster speeds through the screen. When you have the running power up, it is even easier, as you can just do a running jump, speedlock it, and then helicopter. The final situation in which speedlock can be very helpful is when you need to clear big gaps. Usually you would do a running jump and then helicopter, but when your helicopter runs out, your speed would go back to walking speed like this. You can see how Rayman slows down after the helicopter runs out. But if you speedlock during your helicopter, then you can actually keep your running speed. This can be very useful, especially for this last Itajo screen section. It's now time to talk about the main glitches that we use in the speedrun, starting with the zip. A zip happens when you are on a rocket or any object that is moving up into the ground, but the game thinks you are standing on solid ground like I am on right now. Here is how you set it up. You have to stand on the rocket and jump on the side of a solid ground like this. This puts you in this wheel state, and now if you duck and go under a platform, you'll be able to go through it. We do it twice in this Pongo Hill screen. Here I just set up the glitch again, and now if I go into the ground while ducking, I will be able to skip this big part of the level. Here's a little trick. If you fell down and need to do the zip from this rocket, you can simply just land on the very right of it, and because there were ground right next to it, you're actually already set up for the glitch. A clip is a technique that allows you to go through the ground in very specific spots. These spots, you will always find them when a diagonal tile section and horizontal tile section encounters, so right here. And if you go on this section while walking and pressing down on the exact correct pixel, you will be able to go through the ground. Since it only works on 1 or 2 pixels, it means it is frame perfect, so this is a very hard glitch. The main clip that we use in the speedrun is right here in Mr. Sack's level to get this gauge. Sometimes we go through sections with too much speed, so instead of trying to time a down press on the correct frame, we just duck and spam crawl to just hope we somehow go through. Frame perfect clips is not the only way to go through platforms in this game. There is also the case of jump clips, and here is how it's done. For jump clips, you only need to do a jump at the very bottom of a very inclined slope while having speed. If your jump is lower than the slope, you will go through it. There is this interesting glitch where you can maintain slippery physics even on solid ground. So see, here there's a transition from solid ground to slippery, but if you crawl, you will actually keep the slippery physics. So it's not very visible here, so let me just do it again with more speed. Here you can really see how I kept my speed even though I was on solid ground. For this section, you can even buffer a jump while you are crawling to clear an even bigger distance while having the slippery speed. It is now time to talk about speed storage. Speed storage refers to two variables that are stored in game memory and that keep track of your momentum. So these two variables are currently displayed on the screen on the top, which is that 48 on the left and 16 on the right. So the way it works is that the variable on the left describes the momentum you get to your left, and the variable on the right, the momentum you get to the right. And see how these two variables get updated depending on where I jump. And it actually explains why when I try to switch direction in the middle of a running jump, I cannot have a lot of speed in the opposite direction. This is because when doing a running jump to the right, my right speed is set to 48 and my left speed is set to 16. So when I go back to the left, I only get 16 speed, and the same applies in the other direction. Now, it is very interesting to notice that when you jump off an object, like a sharpener, a cloud, or a flower, both of your values actually set up to 48, which allows you to go back to the right, or like back to the left if you're jumping to the right, or back to the right if you're jumping to the left, but not when you're on the ground. Now, something very interesting to notice is that if I set up my right speed to 16 and now try to jump on the very edge of an object, I get my 16 speed maintained even though I was doing a running jump. And if I set it back to 48 by doing a running jump on the ground, then it's no problems. So What this means is that jumping off the very edge of an object preserves your speed storage. Now, the speed storage variable updates whenever you enter the rolling animation, which is when Rayman is doing these little flips in the air, including when he's running off slippery. As you can see here, I briefly entered the flipping animation, and because I was running off slippery, I had great speed, and my variable updated to 112. But now remember, if we jump off the very edge of objects, we can maintain that speed. So if I jump off the very edge of here, I can actually find back my 112 speed. This is how we can abuse speed storage to do strats with bigger speed. Obviously, if you enter rolling animation again before reaching the object, your speed will update again and the glitch will not work. This is why, on the previous example, I was doing a walking jump to the object. This is actually the strat that is used to get the cage in Mosquito's Nest Revisit. On this slope is Mr. Sax. We set up speed storage, use it to get to that cloud, then just get this cage. And as you can see, we will preserve speed storage even while dying. So now we can exit the level, go to Mosquito's Nest, and if we go on that plum and jump off the very edge of it, we will still restore speed storage and be able to get to that cage very easily. It is important to notice that whatever your speed storage is, so right here it's 16102, if you touch a wall, the game will update speed storage to be 48 on both values. So when you have speed storage, it is very important to avoid two things, which is touching walls and doing running jumps, because both of these will update your values. Damage boost refers to a trick that uses an intentional damage to get through a section faster. Damage boost can be interesting for two different reasons. The first one is that getting damage will give us invisibility frames called iframes, and during these iframes we can go through objects that usually would knock us back. For example, here if I want to get the cage down left, I would need to go through these spiky balls, which I can't because they will knock me back. But if I do it right, I can abuse the iframes to actually go through this section and get the cage. Something important to notice is that when you take damage, you get knocked back. Getting a knockback is bad because you go the opposite direction where you want to go, so it's slow. The way around that is that we always try to take damage while facing the opposite of the direction we want to go to. For example, in this section, I would crawl while holding right, so that when I release the crawl, I get damage boost to the left. This way, I do not lose time. Another reason why we would want to get damage is to use the fact that when we get knocked back, we get a little more height. So, for example, here, it would be very tempting to try to hang on this ledge above, to try to skip the section on the right. Unfortunately, we're just slightly too short to make the jump. So we can use this a fragment from this hole and actually be able to hang on the ledge thanks to the knockback. Mr. Sack's lightning slip is another example of this use of damage boost. When Rayman dies, he usually does a little animation and then starts dying. However, if you get hit while on 1 HP and duck at the same time, this animation will not play, which will save you about half a second. For this reason, whenever we are dying in this game, we try to do it while holding down. This way we can skip the death animation. Like here. Easy jump is a bit of a combination of a few techniques we already saw. If you have a great speed, speedlock and manage to jump on solid ground on the very first frame, you will manage to keep that speed. Like so. Because you need to jump on the very first frame, easy jump requires a frame perfect input, so obviously easy jump is a bit of a joke name. There is, however, a situation in which easy jump is actually easy. It is right here in Pink Plantwood's Revisit section. If you enter with speed storage, like here I have 101, you can run off these plants and see it will give you your speed. Now it is also possible then to do an easy jump off of this, and the way to do it is to jump to heli, cancel your heli, and after doing that you want to be on the floor, start running. And when you run off the floor, press jump again, and because you both helicoptered and cancel your helicopter before, you will be able to actually buffer a jump, which if we are doing that while holding up, finally we get a buffered easy jump. Super jumping is a technique that allows us to get insane heights off the ground. The way it works is that you have to do a frame perfect clip in the ground, which will put Rayman in the ground for a frame, and on that very frame you go back to the opposite direction you were facing, but during the next frame Rayman will be pushed back up on the ground. And this pushback, if we time an up press frame perfectly on it, we actually will go flying in the air. This jump height can also be extended by pressing jump and also punching. There are, however, a few spots in the game where you don't need to clip to get the few pixels push. For example, this bouncy naturally gives us a little push when we walk on it. So we just have to time an up press and then we will go flying. Super boost is another technique that we do not use in the speedrun because it is too hard. Here is how it works. If you grab a ring, sometimes during a singular frame, you will get a very high speed. If you manage to speedlock and jump on that very frame, you will be able to maintain that speed and go through the screen at insane speeds. Lightwolf is a very interesting glitch that you can set up by dying while hanging on a vine. This can be done, for example, in the first screen of Swamps of Forgetfulness. This will put us in a very interesting state where you can actually do what we call a glide wall. And as you can see now, Rayman seems and is actually just floating in the air, but he will slowly just walk down, and as soon as you jump, the effect disappears. Unfortunately, this has no uses for the speedrun. Finally, memory card manipulation, or MCM for short, is a glitch that allows us to beat Rayman 1 in under 10 minutes on console. It is done by selecting a file and removing your capture card. I will not explain this glitch in detail here, as thextera already covered it in a great video. You will find the link for it in description.